If you want to change your life instantly, you have to change your beliefs. You have to change how you are thinking. This book right here is going to show you exactly how to do it. We're going to break it down during this video because if you can change your beliefs, you can change your environment, you increase your thinking, everything can change for you literally overnight. In fact, I'm even going to show you how to infiltrate these groups with the greatest thinkers in all areas of life, even if you don't have any money. The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. I had a chance to buy Dr. Joe Vitale's library. So I don't know the exact cost, but based on what I paid for the library, what this book, and how it all kind of fit together, my belief is about $1,000 I ended up paying for this specific book. And I'm excited because this book is one that is such a key integral part for people being successful. But one of the biggest things most people struggle with is actually thinking big. So I want to start with talking about the time that I actually experienced this in my life and had the biggest impact. And it was during my very first mastermind I was ever in. I joined Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer's mastermind group. I remember going into that group thinking I was a big thinker. Like I had this big vision of like what things were. And I was the biggest thinker of all the people around me, right? Like everyone was like, man, Russell's this big thinker. And at the time in my business, I sold a $5,000 offer. Like that was big as I could think. And again, it was bigger than all the people I knew. So I signed up for this Dan Kennedy mastermind. I think it was $25,000 to join the group. I get to this group, it was the most money I ever spent on anything in my life. So I was kind of nervous. And I get in this room with all these other successful entrepreneurs. I was the young kid in the group because I had the smallest business, and everyone had a chance to get up in front of the group and like talk about their business and share what they were doing. So I got up on there and I was very proud of my business. And one of the guys in the group raised his hand and he said, okay, after somebody bought the $5,000 thing, what's the next thing you sell them? And I remember looking at the guy, he was crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like he spent $5,000. That's all the money people have. And he's like, no, you don't understand, Russell. You have $5,000 buyer lead. That's the best buyer you ever have. Like that person wants to give you more money for something next. And I was like, you're insane. There's no way that's even like, I couldn't fathom it. Like my thinking, which I thought was big, was capped out at $5,000. Like that was the biggest my brain could go. And that night, Bill Glazer came and he made a presentation to everybody in the group. There were 18 of us in the room and he sold a $36,000 offer. And I remember I was sitting there, I was like, what? For me, like $25,000 was the rest of my money, right? And 9 of the 18 people in the room bought it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a $25,000 buyer lead in that room. Like I realized from that, like I wasn't thinking big enough. Forced my thinking to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what I love about this book is it starts shifting your thinking to start, even if you think you're a big thinker right now, how can you shift your thinking to believe bigger and to grow bigger and expand from there? There's a bunch of principles from this book I want to talk about. The first one I want to talk about says that belief is a precursor to action. It's interesting in my role here at what I do at ClickFunnels, my companies, I always tell people like my job is like, I'm the core belief cheerleader. If I can get you to believe this will work for you, that's all that really matters, right? Like that is my job. So I'm always trying to share case studies and examples. Like we do events, bring people on stage to show what's possible, right? I was not aware of this. I found this the other day. I was searching on, TikTok or YouTube or something, and this popped up. And it was this concept called the Rosenthal effect. And I never heard of it before, but such a powerful thing. The Rosenthal effect is a psychological phenomenon where high expectations lead to improved performance, while low expectations lead to poorer performance. Okay, very simple, very easy. What that means is if you have expectations like, I'm gonna be successful in this thing, your chance of success dramatically rise. If you're like, I don't want to be successful in this thing, your chance of success decreases. And it sounds so simple and so easy, but it's so powerful. Like I remember in wrestling, this one time, my sophomore year in high school, I was at his tournament and I didn't know who any of the people were. It was my first time ever coming there. And I got into the semifinals and there was this kid that I'd never heard of before. I know who he was. I got out there, I wrestled him, I ended up beating him. And in my head, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna beat him. And remember afterwards, my coach came over, he's like, do you know who that was? I was like, no. He's like, tells me the guy's name and who he was, his credentials. I was like, whoa, I had no idea. I didn't even know, but I just believed I was gonna win, so I was gonna win. Now, fast forward 3 months later, I'm at another tournament and I see that kid and he's in my bracket and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's that guy. And even though I'd already beaten him, because my coach had told me all these things about him, I started like, I don't know if I can beat this guy. He's really good. And like it shifted everything. And sure enough, we met in that tournament, we wrestled again, and that time he beat me, right? And it's just so fascinating how our beliefs dictate our actions. It dictates what's gonna happen. So when you understand that, it's like when I'm going into any situation, I have to figure out how to increase my belief. How do I increase my belief to a spot where it's like, I think I could do this. Like, I believe I could win. So for you as a business owner or entrepreneur, like when you start setting these goals, you have to have absolute belief that you're going to be successful with them. Right? You have to believe in yourself, believe in your team. If you don't have that belief, that's where everything starts crumbling. That's where the concept of thinking big all begins. When I do my masterminds and stuff, one of the commonalities I hear over and over and over again from people who work at the highest level with me is literally they come back and say, you believed in me more than I believed in myself. Because you believed in me, it made me believe in myself. And so for me, it's like I have such a high belief in humans' divine potential, like because I've seen it over and over again. I believe that any single person, if they will pursue the God-given gifts and talents that they have, they can change people's lives. And so when I see somebody, I see that talent inside them, and everybody has it. They're all in different areas, different ways, but I have such belief in human potential. I believe they can be successful. So when I meet somebody, I see what they're doing. If they're doing it, especially if they're doing it at a little scale, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know what you're capable of. I remember we had Stacy and Paul Martino. They help people in relationships and marriages. They did an event, this was a couple of years back. I can't remember, 100 people event, and they closed half of them. It was like this huge successful thing. And as soon as I got done with that, I messaged them. I was like, I have visions of you guys filling stadiums and doing this work with so many more people. I remember Stacy messaged back and she was just like so excited. She's like, you can see that? I'm like, yeah, like you're doing it here, this scale, like, can you imagine? And for them, it was like this thing that was just like, oh my gosh, Russell believes we can do it. Like we can actually, like it unlocks that for people. So for me, a lot of times it's just like helping them see what I'm able to see in them. Like that's one of the first things. Number two is it's trying to bring reality to the situation, right? Like so many people, they see, let's say they see me or Tony Robbins or whoever, like you see these people and they seem unrealistic. It doesn't seem believable, it doesn't seem possible, right? And so for me, it's like, I try to bring examples of them. Like if you look at when we launched Funnel Hacking Live a decade ago, if you looked at what all the events were prior to Funnel Hacking Live, it was all these stage speakers would come to the event and tell their stories about greatness. When we launched Funnel Hacking Live, it was completely different. We didn't have like any keynote speakers for years. All it was people in the community. Like there were people sitting in the audience and then we called them in to stand up and they'd walk up and they would share their story. So people were seeing like, these are not like some famous people I see on Instagram and social everywhere. It's like, these are people in the stands with me, like sitting next to me. Like they're like, my peers are doing this, right? We launched a 2 Comma Club award. The number one reason for that is because we wanted to get people to believe that they could do it, right? It's a belief mechanism. And then all of a sudden people started seeing when we did the very first time we ever did the 2 Comma Club awards. I remember the first year we did it, 2017, I believe, we had 79 people who had qualified for the award. And we didn't even tell people about the award yet, but we just told them like, you need to show up to Funnel Hacking Live because you're getting an award because you've crossed $1 million in sales inside of one of your funnels. So we had 79 people in the audience and we did the very first award ceremony. I came out first, I showed the award, no one's seen it yet. I explained it, I told the story behind it. I said, there's 79 people in the audience now who've earned one of these things. And then we had that on the mic and they said, they announced the first person's name and they stood up and they walked through the people, came up and they got the award. And the next person, and afterwards people told me like, it was crazy. I was sitting there watching you and the other speakers and all of a sudden I saw the persons next to me jump up and they won an award. Somebody else, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, this is not just for them. This is for us, right? It gave them belief at a different level. Those are some of the things we do to try to create and install belief in people because belief is the first step. Like you can think big, but if you don't believe that it's possible, it's never going to actually happen. Another one of the principles from this book he talks about is that your environment shapes your thinking. So what does that mean? You probably heard the quote before that you will become the average of your 5 closest friends, right? And this is true in all areas of life, right? Your income will be the average of your 5 closest friends' income. Your health will be the average of the 5 closest friends. Your socials, like all these things, because when we're around people, we start syncing our beliefs and start thinking like them. First time I ever heard that, I was like, is that true? I started thinking about how much money I was making. I looked at who are the 5 closest people to me. And it was crazy because I had like 1 or 2 people who were being very successful and then a couple people who weren't. Luckily, when it averaged out, I was like, I am the average of these 4 or 5 people, right? And I was like, okay, if I want to up level to the next level, I'm not going to get there just by thinking about it. Like I need to get into an environment where it's no longer like this weird thing, right? Like I remember in college, I was telling people like my goal is to make $1 million a year. And I would tell people around me that and they would look at me like I was crazy. The environment around, no one believes this is possible. So I need to shift my environment. So I started going to events. I remember the first event I ever went to was Armin Moore had a seminar called The Big Seminar. And I go to this event and I think there's 500 or 600 people in the room. I remember in that room, I remember telling somebody my goal, like, yeah, my goal is to make $1 million this year. And the person's like, oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I was like, whoa, that wasn't weird for them. And I asked somebody else, I was like, yeah, my goal is making $1 million this year. And they're like, why are you shooting so low? I was like, I didn't think I was shooting. And I started realizing like these people thought differently. I was like, okay, I need to spend more time talking to these people because these things all seem commonplace. It seemed easy here versus back home, it seemed impossible. And so I started networking and getting introverted. Russell, I suck at networking, but I'm like, I need to be close in proximity to these people. And they don't live in Boise, Idaho. So how do I get in proximity with them, right? And so for me, initially started with me getting everyone's Skype. That's how I started. I got everyone's Skype addresses and I would jump on Skype with people and I would talk to them on Skype and ask them questions. And my whole goal with that was like, I need to be in proximity to these people because if it's true that my income is the average of my 5 closest friends, I need to get around and spend more time around people who have the income level that I want. And so I started doing that. And in a very short period of time, my beliefs, things I was thinking, the things I was actually doing, all increased because it seemed commonplace amongst the group of peers I had now assembled. And then what happened is that eventually we kind of capped out here. I was like, these people are all great, but like this is the tier that they're at. I'm like, okay, where are the people at the next level? Like, what are they thinking? So I'd go to different events. I would join mastermind groups. I started paying more to be in a mastermind group. And someone might say, Russell, why would you spend $100,000 to be in a mastermind group? I was like, because the people that are willing to write a check for $100,000 think differently than people who are willing to spend $25,000 to be in a mastermind. And so Dean Graziosi, I remember him and Joe Polish launched a $100,000 mastermind group. And I knew they were launching it the night before they launched it. I wrote the very first check. I joined. I was the first person to join, right? And I did that because I was like, I need to be in the group with people who think this way. And from there, I got a new peer group of people, and they were all thinking differently. These people are all at 50, 60, $70 million a year. And guess what happened? My business now became like, that seemed common. It didn't seem difficult. I just got back last week from another event that Tony Robbins runs. For that mastermind group, everyone in the group spends $250,000 a year to be in the group. So why was I there? Because people who can write a check for $250,000 to be in a room, they think differently. And I'm sitting in this room, I'm looking, and there's two Silicon Valley tech founders who are highly funded, right? There's a real estate guy that's like $3 billion in real estate. Like, these are all the people in that room. And I was like, I'm finally in a room where people are thinking at a different level. Like, I'm at a tier now where it's hard to find new people. And so I'm always searching for those. And if I find them, then I can get around those, because the environment will shape your thinking more than almost anything else, right? So making sure your environment is correct. And if you're in an environment where maybe like you don't have the ability yet to like, I can't just go and plug in these places. It's like, how do you find those people? Now, there's so many things from this book that are awesome. I only had a chance to really talk about belief and talk about changing your environment, but there's tons of really cool things in here inside the magic of thinking big. If you can get a copy on Amazon to read it, it's worth it. If you just want my notes, again, I went through, we took notes on all the core concepts and principles from this book, kind of like a Cliff Notes version. If you want access to that, there's a link in the description down below. Click on that and we'll get you my notes. And that way you can start figuring out how to get your thinking to grow, because your success in any area of your life, it could be a relationship, it could be business, it could be athletics, like whatever it is, like if you can shift your thinking, start thinking bigger, changing your belief patterns, getting the right environments, it'll shift and change everything for you, just like it did for me. Hope you enjoyed this video, and getting the notes for this book are down in the comments down below.